Welcome to my YouTube channel, guys. And one thing I want to talk about today is culture shock. Like when you move to a place, there's always kind of things that you're not used to doing, but being that you are in a new place, you will see people doing them, and some extent because you want to be part of that community, you gotta join them because you want like a smooth transition, like you want a smooth life, you want to mingle, you want to, yeah. So this creator here today is talking about things that as a European she can never get used to doing them in the United States. And I want to relate that to Canada, being that as an African man in Canada, I want to talk about some of the things that I've really had to struggle to get around to doing. In the meantime, I want to thank those new subscribers I just got. 3 of them. Thank you. Remember to subscribe. Okay, let's go.
First one was so shocking to me that when I first saw it, I couldn't stop laughing. I saw those crazy drug commercials with a very long list of intense side effects. I know health is a serious matter, but the side effects are so long and so intense, and also there's a crazy contrast between the gentle music and happy visuals they put on top of them. It becomes so weird and funny to me. In the US, the drug makers have to list all the side effects, and that's not the case in France, where I come from. But
Do we have ads for drugs in Kenya? No, we don't. We do have, however, like mostly like ads for painkillers. You never see like the drugs for major diseases, like life-altering diseases on TV. So this was also kind of like not really a culture shock because I'd seen like drug adverts, but not to the extent that I've seen in Canada. Like major drugs would be like advertised on TV. So yeah.
This top comment from one of the ads for anti-smoking drugs I've just showed you just sums it best. Anyway, as you can see, this is
You will stop smoking one way or the other.
Let's get into the second thing, which is how far Americans are willing to drive. For example, I met a girl who moved from LA to New York by car, which, just to put things into perspective, if you were driving a similar...
This is also kind of a Canadian thing, the road trip. In Kenya, there are usually instances where people drive from Nairobi all the way to Cape Town, South Africa, but they're very few and spread in between because, again, those trips need one, you gotta have a car, you gotta have money, you gotta have the ability to move from one border to the other, because there are certain borders that require you to have visa. There are others that are visa free, or at least you pay for visa on arrival, so you actually do need the money. So in most instances, people don't really do that. So I think it's a Canadian thing too. People are willing to drive. Yeah, because my boss, what am I talking about? My boss drove from Toronto all the way to Utah. And he was showing us these videos. Actually, he really loves Utah. Bro, wanna move to Utah.
LA to New York by car, which, just to put things into perspective, if you were driving a similar amount of time in Europe, you'd be going from Madrid in Spain to Moscow in Russia, and
that's
then
far.
crossing through 7 different countries.
That
As a
is
European,
far.
which leads me to my next point, which is diner culture and big breakfasts. So, a bit of context here. In France, where I come from, breakfasts are pretty small. Like most days, I usually eat a piece of bread with a bit of butter, maybe a fruit, and if I really want to go crazy and it's the weekend, maybe an almond croissant. So you can probably imagine that I was shocked in such a positive way when I had my first American breakfast. Like, you can order anything you want, either sweet or savory. You can have all types of eggs, omelets, pancakes, hash browns, home fries, and often...
This is typically a Canadian thing. This, like, the idea of just a simple breakfast is not there here. I mean, again, it's not really like a culture shock to me. To me, it was kind of interesting because, again, back home, breakfast was mostly tea and then something on the side, which could be most likely like slices of bread. Those slices of bread could be slices of bread dry, or you could have like maybe make a toast, some egg on the side. The more stable you are, the more you're likely to bring in variety within that that plate. But if you're broke, bro, you are going to take that tea with 2 slices of bread. And sometimes you're gonna just take the tea, no bread. And sometimes you are going to take the tea and there's no milk.
As a European, I was not prepared for the lack of privacy in American toilets.
These toilets, I don't know whether they were designed like this. If you're willing to partition a toilet, just close it all the way. I don't want someone getting to. It makes shitting very uncomfortable because you tend to think someone is all over your business, even though they're not. What are those under for? Because it's also a Canadian thing. And yeah, that was actually a culture shock. If you can make a toilet that spacious, you can cover it all the way. Please.
There are massive gaps both under the stalls, but also on the sides of the stalls.
Yes, that too. Someone inside would actually think someone is that you can see them, even if you can't. And that is usually the problem because it just messes you up mentally.
The gaps are so big that you can actually make eye contact with people. I think that there's an unspoken rules that you should never look towards the gap, but I first didn't know that. My old work in the US used to have those exact stalls, and I did make eye contact with someone I was working with, which is maybe one of the most embarrassing experiences.
That's awkward. Yeah, but I get it. You want to discourage people from doing weird stuff in the toilet, but still, they make you feel highly uncomfortable.
But anyways, moving on to point number 5, another thing that shocked me positively is how much authentic international food there is. I used to live in New York City, which is, the capital of international food. Like, you can find very authentic Malaysian, Indonesian, Indian food, which makes total sense because the US is a country that's based on immigration. And there's just a lot of people from all over the world that also bring their culture with them. And
in Toronto, you'll eat, there is every single culture here, and for every single culture that is here, that culture comes with their food. So yeah, and it wasn't really a shock. Yeah, it was something I would expect because the people actually cooking those food are people from those cultures, so they know. Sometimes they say that the ingredients are not as authentic as the ones they have, and that is true. For example, someone occasionally, once in a while, takes my friends to eat Kenyan food. The goat ribs will be nice, the ugali will be nice, but the veggies will be you'll feel like it's something that has been over preserved for a very long time. Makes sense that when you eat it, that authentic taste is gone.
Anyway, something a bit deeper that also shocked me is the cost of education in the US and how much sports play a role in tuition. So I think a lot of Europeans are already aware that education is very expensive in the US. Like, we hear about those crazy stories of people having millions of dollars in student loans or tuition being around 90 grand a year.
I don't know. As someone who's going to school in Canada, I'm not paying a crazy amount. Even my friends who get student loan, though it has changed right now, but they tend to get that there's a loan and there's a grant, and sometimes the grant that you're given, meaning money you don't have to pay back, is way more than the actual loan that you have to pay back. So
something that I found really crazy is how, if you're good at sports, you can get a full scholarship. And that's what happened to my American boyfriend, Bobby. He played baseball his whole life. Got a full scholarship for college. And I don't know the exact numbers, but the current cost of a year tuition at the college he studied at is around $50,000.
Now, can you imagine that amount of money, but this time for an international student? Hats off for international students. The amounts some people pay here in the name of school fee. And some of those people are here paying these crazy amounts of money for courses they do not need, they do not want, they hate them, but some people are willing to spend money just to be permanent residents of Canada.
This next one is a bit weird. It's because unless you can clearly see the numbers, US dollar bills kind of all look the same. Like, here are the euro bills to give you a bit of context. They are clearly a different color, so if you forgot your glasses at home, you know that blue is a 20, for example. And they are also a different size, which is great to recognize them if you're blind or visually impaired.
The notes in Canada tend to be different colors, different sizes. So yeah, this didn't really shock me because from back home we have the same.
You guys also have all kinds of weird measurement formats. There's obviously the date format. So in the US, you put the month, then the date, then the year. In France, it's the opposite. We put the day, then month, then year.
Yeah, that's what I do. But again, I went through a British system, so it's pretty easy for me that way. In Canada, it's different. It depends. At one point, it's the month, the date, and the year, and the other time it's the date, the month, and the year. But again, in most instances, if someone wants a particular format, they'll always indicate there on how the date should appear.
There's also the imperial system, which, to be honest, I'm still having a bit of trouble navigating. But also,
I'm still struggling with the gallon part, but the pound, I've actually just eased into it like a breeze. Like nowadays, a kilogram will come to my mind, but mostly I'll just do measurements in pounds because it's easy that way.
So one thing I love is that kind of anything goes to measure stuff. Blocks for distances, football fields for size. And I love that on this video on the topic, one of the top comments is, I bought a 5-acre land. No idea how big that is. Then I found out it's approximately 4.5 football fields. Worked for me and I bought it. Another thing I'm having trouble to adapt to is getting carded when buying alcohol. Obviously now I look well above 21, so people don't card me in restaurants anymore.
There are instances when I have gone to buy something, I will not say what it is, and they've asked for my ID, but I think it's most likely for security purposes because I don't think I look below 21. And again, what I also know that some of these IDs can be very fake. People just want to buy alcohol or buy a joint, so they don't have any other means of verifying. They'll just look at it and then give it back to you.
Another thing that really shocked me is how loud people are. Like, I feel in France we speak at such a lower volume that if I go to a restaurant in the US with a French friend, I will not always hear them because everyone else is yelling but us.
Why are Americans loud? Oh, please. If I wanted to stay somewhere quiet, I would probably stay home or go to a park that is all quiet. But if you are around people, people will make you feel like, yeah, you're around people. You are in a social setting. I can say it's really a culture shock because back home, I never used to really go out.
But in any case, apart from that, the dining experience in the US is so amazing. One thing that did surprise me though is that when you're paying it looks like this. They take your credit card away, whereas in Europe you would never give your credit card to the waiter to avoid any risk of fraud, and they actually come with a card machine to your table for you to pay.
Yeah, I think that happens in Canada too. They've never taken my credit card. They'll just come with the credit card to the credit machine to me, and then I'll tap.
Another thing that shocked me is the cult of credit cards in the US. I've spoken about it before. As a European, I've never had a credit card, only a debit card, and I actually grew up thinking that credit cards were bad, like as in they encourage you to spend money you don't have. Obviously, since then, I've understood that credit cards are kind of necessary in the US to build credit and have a credit.
That's why I have two, which I make sure to use and always have to pay back. Sometimes you even shuffle them around to just make sure that you pay back on time to avoid interest accumulating and your credit score falling. Yep.
And that's all for me today. If you found it.
And that is all for me today too, because I'll do an independent video of things that I thought shocked me when I got to Canada. But now that you are here, please comment, subscribe, like, and be a part of this channel.